This is Jeb Boone with ESFIworld.com, and I'm joined by Mary Ratliff, the producer and director of the Good Game movie. Thanks for speaking with us.
Oh, thank you.
Just to start with, can you give us a brief overview of your background and your filmmaking history?
So I started actually doing film stuff in the late 90s when I started. Went to film school, got a bachelor's degree, kind of dropped out of it for a little while, and started back up again in the early 2000s. And I just finished up a master's degree, MFA in film, and over the course of that I've made a couple short documentaries. In the last few years I made 2 short films. One of them's up online that people can watch. The other one, we're still finishing up some of the post-production stuff because that takes forever, which people are always surprised by. And then Good Game is technically my second feature-length documentary, but it's the first one sort of this size and scope, I would say.
And what are your goals with screening the film or releasing the film? Have you seen any interest from networks or film festivals?
We have had some interest, nothing that's like on the record official or anything like that, but there's definitely a lot of people that want to know more about it, want to know where we are. We've got a couple different people that, we're keeping updated with our schedule and how things are going. And so sort of our plans for the film are a little fluid right now because it all depends on how those things work out. Because for us, what I want to make sure happens is the absolute best thing for obviously for myself, but for the film in general, for the people that have worked on it with me, because they've all been doing me a lot of huge favors. They've gone above and beyond, so I want to make sure that they get the recognition that they deserve. And I also want to make sure that the fans get it. So it's something that even if we do, which sort of the traditional, it'll go through a festival run and then go through, at the end of the day, at the end game, it will be available worldwide for a good price point. And, digital distribution is absolutely something that we've been watching a lot of different projects and how they've been going, and trying to make sure that we stay up to date with whatever the newest things are to make sure that it gets to the most people. Because obviously that's sort of the point, is to reach as many people as possible with it. And esports has such an international fan base that there's no way that we would just be United States specific with it. That's never going to happen. So
It's always interesting to hear the kind of interest that this sort of work pulls from traditional media, because that's always sort of the goal, is to get legitimate coverage. How would you gauge the interest from traditional media outlets for your film and also for esports in general?
I think everybody's fascinated right now. Especially, I've done a couple different events in the DC area because I'm pretty active in the Washington, DC film community, which is where I live. And I went to one event where we showed our Kickstarter trailer that we had made, and nobody had ever heard of any of this. They didn't even know what StarCraft was. Maybe these people had a Wii at home or something like that. And they were absolutely fascinated. They had a million questions. They wanted to know everything about how it worked. And so I think it's definitely something that most people, when you introduce this idea to them, all they have are questions. And they come to it usually at first from a place of respect. Like sometimes you'll get a little bit of that pushback of, get a real job. But most of the time, once you start explaining to them that these people, they practice 8 to 10 hours a day. They, you sit in a cubicle all day, so they sit in front of a computer all day, same kind of thing. And that they're having success with their dreams. And especially in the film community, that's something that resonates a lot. And so I think the media community in general sees that, because they're doing sort of a non-traditional thing for their dreams too. I mean, I make films, and I do some other things on the side to pay the bills, but it is kind of the same sort of idea, and that's what drew me to it in the first place. So,
you mentioned your Kickstarter before. Is that your main source of funding for the project, or do you have any interest from potential financial backers as well? Or
the Kickstarter ended up, what we've spent so far, the Kickstarter actually amounted, and donations, I sort of lumped them all together in my head, maybe a third to a quarter of the budget, and the rest has come from me so far. There have been a lot of people that are interested in it, but the trick is that for the most part, and with a lot of the grants that we've been looking at, people really want to see a rough cut or a product. And that's the stage we're at right now, is getting that rough cut and that product to show people. I mean, we had a trailer, we have a few little short pieces, but they don't want to invest a significant amount of money until they have something to really look at and to know like that it's worth it. And that's the point that we're getting to right now in post-production. So there are people that have been interested that have sort of said, keep me informed, let me know what you're doing. But for the most part so far, it's been me working a lot of odd jobs, script supervising and transcribing actually is one of the other things I do. So it's definitely like I do a lot of odd jobs to help pay off what this is. So
you say that there's a lot of interest into the film. People are like, keep us in the loop. But do you think that the gap between being interested and taking it as something that's a legitimate enterprise, do you think that gap can be bridged by what we're doing now? Will it ever happen? Will we see it on a sports page or something like that in the future?
I think so. I think that there are some growing pains that like the industry in general probably is going to need to go through. And it's something that has become part of the narrative of the film in a way, is me looking at, where is this, like, where is taking this out of something that you have the article in the newspaper the other day about, like, it's like a giant rec room or whatever they called it. Where do you get past that point so that people accept it as legitimate athletes? Do you need to keep calling it esports? And all those sort of things have been stuff that's been on my mind. I think it's definitely heading that direction. And I think that is going to be where it goes eventually. I just don't necessarily know, like, who's going to be involved in it, what games are they still going to be playing, like, when Heart of the Swarm comes out, is it going to break StarCraft, or is it going to just take it so much further? I don't know the answers to those. Like, smarter people than me are probably debating that. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely something, for me, the most powerful narrative right now that's showing that this is possible is Scarlett. And, the fact that she's just sort of come out of nowhere this year, completely dominated. Like, watching her matches last night were amazing. And to see that and to understand really completely the level playing field that you get with esports, and that it's something that a wide variety of different people can excel at just through hard work, practice, determination, and growing skill. And so I think that that's something that traditional sports hasn't necessarily dipped into in America. And so you're going to get that dynamic in those people that want something like that. They need to fill that, because, people want to compete. They want to compete at something, and they want to be great at something. And this is a way for them to be great. So
you've been in production for some time now, and you've had time to see sort of when this iteration of esports, I guess you could call it the StarCraft iteration of esports almost. What sort of themes have you seen rise and fall in esports? What ideas have been successful, and what others that have fallen by the wayside?
It's definitely interesting. The thing that got me started on this was actually an event, MLG DC, which was extremely tiny. It was I think the first or maybe second. It was the second StarCraft tournament for MLG. And then now you've got StarCraft on 2 screens. So it's definitely one thing that I have noticed is that esports is definitely putting a lot of their eggs in the StarCraft basket, which is not a bad decision. I think that Blizzard has definitely, like, I'm a huge Blizzard fangirl. Like, I love everything Blizzard makes. I played Diablo.
You mean Diablo 3?
Okay. I finished Diablo 3 because I liked the story, and then I got into Nightmare mode, and I got through Act 1, and then I put it aside for a couple days, and I haven't picked it back up, interestingly.
You have to play Auction House Tycoon to be able to beat Nightmare.
Yeah, that was the trick for me, was that the Auction House thing was just not kicking in because I wasn't getting the good gear, because I'm not in, like, the absolute worst. But anyway, but yeah, I think Blizzard is a good company for them to look to, and I think it's good that the companies are actually starting to take notice. But there are still some things that I've seen in the last year, especially, there was the big to-do with the fighting game community earlier this year. And it's things like that, like I said, there's some growing pains that people are going to have to get through. And that's what they are, is that the community itself is going to have to look to itself and say, what do we need to do? And not even necessarily just to be more accepted, but just to be better people. And so, like I said, that's one of the reasons that I love the whole thing with Scarlett, is that she's just like, no, you know what, I'm going to win, and I don't care what you have to say about it. And so that's brilliant to watch, because I think that's where the community's heading, and that's what it needs. So
Okay. Thanks for speaking with us. We appreciate it. Good
Yeah,
luck.
thank you.